this is Adetayo, and today I want to talk about how you can migrate your data from on-prem MSSql to Snowflake's warehouse using Azure Data Factory as our integration runtime. Please stay tuned. Hi guys, this is Adetayo. Welcome to my channel. Today we'll be learning something super cool, which is data migration. We're going to embark on this journey together where we'll be moving data from on-prem data warehouse to a cloud-based data warehouse. This is like the organized way of moving your properties from old house to a new house. But before we start, let's try and understand what data migration is. So, data migration is the process of moving data between storage locations. In a layman's term, we are moving to a new home, but instead of moving properties in this scenario, we'll be moving data. To achieve this, we are going to use Azure Data Factory as our trusted tool to make our data movement seamless. This is like you using a moving company to move your property to your new home. And if you might be wondering, why do we have to move data? Think of it this way. Organizations evolve over time, so their data needs. They might need more spacious, scalable, high performance, and flexible data warehousing solution. And that's where Snowflake come into play. Snowflake is a modern cloud-based data warehousing solution. Now, before we start, let's dive into the technical details and a step-by-step guide of our data migration journey. Now, let's break down the data migration process. This is the architecture that we'll be following in our data migration series. ADF here acts as the expert team, carefully packing our data, ensuring nothing gets left behind in this process. It creates a moving plan, that is our data pipelines, organizing the boxes, that's the data object, and safely transport them into their new home. The source here that we'll be using for this class is SQL, Microsoft SQL Server, which is where all the tables resides, waiting to be migrated. Imagine staging environments as the place where you store all our data, just like when you want to move to a new house. Before you set up your new home, you have a temporary warehouse where you first put all your properties in before your final setting up of the house. And in this scenario, that's what we'll be using. So the final destination is Snowflake. This journey is all about learning, growing together. And if in the course of this journey you have any question that you want me to cover for this class, please drop them in the comments box below. I'll be covering the architecture in depth in the next few minutes, where we'll break down the step-by-step guide of our data flow. So if you're excited about this migration, as I am, please help me hit the subscribe button and let's have a fantastic data migration journey ahead. And let's get your bags ready, get your migration ready, and let's start packing our data to our new home. Thank you, guys. So, all right. Thank you. Welcome back. So let me quickly recap. Like I said, welcome back to our data migration class. My name still remains your guy. My name is Adetayo. So this is the architecture from the few minutes video that we watched earlier, where we explain our data journey. This is the architecture that we'll be using for this class. So the phase one that we'll be handling is migrating to our staging environment. And the phase two is migrating to our final destination, which is Snowflake. But before we start, our main focus will be first to break down the 2 simple steps to make this journey easier to understand and to solve. We'll start by solving our data migration challenges by first migrating a single table. And then when we are done with that, we will now take it further and migrate all the tables at once. So stick around and you can grab a cup of coffee and let's continue with this journey. Okay, so the first thing we need to make sure is to make sure that we have our environment ready before we begin our data migration journey. It is significant that first thing that we need to do is to make sure that you have SQL Server installed on your system, and you can go ahead to Microsoft website. I'll provide a link where you can go to the website and download a free Express edition that you can install on your system. And also you download SQL Server Management Studio, which you can also download from Microsoft website. Now, let's get SQL Server Management Studio running. So let's get running. So the first thing I'll do is I'll provide the link, and also the next one is we'll also need a backup file, which is a BAK file that you need to restore on your SQL Server. I'll provide the step-by-step flow in the link below from Microsoft website, how you can download and how you can install the BAK file on your local system. You can also download AdventureWorks 2022 that we'll be using for this class, which is the BAK file that you'll be downloading. It's lighter, yeah. All right, so let's get going. You can head over to Microsoft website where you can download the on-prem Microsoft SQL Server. Also, you can also download SQL Server Management Studio, and then from there you can also download the BAK file where you can scroll down and then you'll see AdventureWorks. So you can download AdventureWorks 2022. So you will see the tutorial guide on how you can install it, the BAK file, and you can name for your class. So you can maintain the name, and you can also name it as you deem fit. So you'll see the step-by-step guide on how you can restore the BAK file on Microsoft official website. Again, you'll find lots of online tutorials on how you can step-by-step guide on how you can restore your backup, which is the .bak file on your local system, and also how you can install the database engine and the SQL Server Management Studio, which will bring the list of database that you've restored and all that. So you can check from Microsoft Microsoft website. Yeah. So now all right, once everything is fine with the installation, you'll have something like this. And then you can head over and connect to your database. So once you connect, you'll see your database in the list of what you've installed. And yeah, so you'll see AdventureWorks 2022, but if you rename it, you'll see the new name of the file that you installed. So now the next step is to head over to your Google and let's install Azure side of it. So head over to Google and type Azure Portal. So So you type Azure Portal, and then when you search, you'll see portal.azure and all that, and then you can sign up. I've already signed up. Okay, so once you sign in on Azure Portal, you'll see something like this. But you don't have to worry. Once you sign up, the good news is they'll give you like $200 free credit for the first 30 days, which should be more than enough for this tutorial. When you log in and this is your land home page, this is what it looks like. You can click. So you can click to start your free version. You click on the create resource and you can create what you want to use for this class. All right. So once you're in Azure Portal, this is your dashboard. You'll see all the services you can get. And what we're going to do now is we're going to create Azure storage account. So you can either create from here or you can click on the search bar and search for Azure storage account. So once you click that, you select the storage account. And then you click on create. I'll be using my existing subscription. So when you create, you see your subscription name, the group and all, and you create. I already have existing subscription, so which I'm using for this class. Once you create a storage account, so by default you'll be attached to a subscription. So I already have one created. And the next thing is it will ask you to create a new resource group. Click here and create new, but I've already created one which I'll be using. So, right. So the next one is storage account name. So you create a storage account name. So you give it, assign the name that you want. So you create. All right. So when you select create new storage account, so the first page is you get is here. For the subscription, I will already have an existing subscription which I'll have been using. It will ask you to create a resource group. You can click on create new and then you create a resource group. But I already have one that I've created which I'll be using for this class. The next one is it will ask you to create a storage name. Make sure you give a unique name. So we give a unique name. Oh, sorry. Okay, then already taken. Okay, so region is speaks. Preferred storage type. You select the All right, you search here and search for Azure Data Factory, Azure Storage. Azure Storage account, you select this. Once you have this, you click on Create. By default, it will select the subscription that you already have, but you can create a resource group, which you click on Create here. And the next one is storage name. So you give a unique name, but make sure that everything is in lowercase. Training class. And then by default, you pick your region and you select your preferred storage account. And then you click on Next. You click on Next once you have your name and all that. So at the next, make sure you enable hierarchy namespace. And once you've done that, you click on Next. Or you can preview before you create. And once you're comfortable with everything that you set up, you click Create. And voila. So it might take a while. It's currently deploying, so just give it a few minutes. It's currently deploying. And once you're done, you can comment complete. You can go back to resource. Go to your storage account, you'll see the one that we've created. And once everything is fine, this is what it looks like. So your storage account is like your Google Drive. So it's unique. So yeah. So voila. So now we've created our storage account. So this is like your Google Drive account, but it's in the cloud. So once you have your storage provided, so imagine your container as your Google Drive account where you can save your data, but it's in the cloud. So this is block container. which is within your account. So you can specify different container. So it's just the same way you create your folders inside your Google Drive account. So for your storage needs, so you click the plus icon. And click create. So once you have this, then you create your container and then you name it. You can name it with the name of the database that you're bringing in. But since I've already created one, there's no need for me to create a new one. But if you want to, you specify the name and then you click on create. So the second one you set up is the data factory. So think of your container as your Google Drive, and inside the Google Drive, you can create different folder inside. So if you want to create the container, you just hit create the add container, you create, and then you add. And once you add your container, you can add different folders inside your container. So we'll be creating a directory whereby the data will migrate, where we'll be saving it. So you can click on add directory and you can create your storage, your another folder inside your container. This is where the data that will be migrating from the MSSql database, this is where we'll be saving it. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so and once you have that ready, so we already have the files that will be coming in will be in CSV file. So the next one we will be creating is data factory. So we go back and search for data factory. So once you have, you click on data factory. And then you click on create. So you search for data factory. And once you have it, you click on create. So you fill in necessary details, just as we filled for the previous one, your subscription and all that, and then you hit the review or create button. So once you create that, this is what it will look like after creating the Azure Data Factory. And then once you've created it, and then you click on Launch Studio. So it takes a while for it to launch. So just give it time, and once it's up and running, then we'll start. Okay, so now this is the landing page. So this is what it looks like. So it is where we'll set up our integration runtime and the rest. So now, for us to start, click on the pencil icon for us to create our pipelines. The first thing is edit pipeline action. You see this 3 dot there, click on it and click on new pipeline. Once you click on the new pipeline, so you give it a name, you can call it test or dummy pipeline. So let's call it dummy. pipeline. And then the next thing you need to do is let's test. So you select wait activity. You bring it here. For you to save, you can click on publish. So now we've published, we've saved. And if you look at it from the pipeline settings, click on the pipeline. You can see the wait timeline is 1 second. And you can debug, you can set up the pipeline. So now the wait time that you can set up is in seconds. You can call it the name, you can change the name. You can either debug the pipeline or trigger it. So you can debug. So this is successful. So congrats on setting up your first pipeline. So now that's how you set up pipeline. So now let's set up the table copy. How you can extract data from MSSql to ADS2. So select the copy activity. In the copy activity, you can set up the source database, and you can set up where you set it up the data set for the source. You can also set up the sync activity, which you can select where you want it to be. So let's do the quick configuration. So the first thing to do is to name it. So like I explained in the first video, in the first phase, that the first thing we'll be doing is we'll be extracting for a table. And once we are done with a single table extraction, and then we'll do for the full database. Okay. Just one table, that's what we'll be setting up. So let's first rename. So let's give it a name. So we can call it MSSql to ADF underscore one table. Or we say, let's call it copy data from SQL to ADS. You have similar names, so it's 2. That's the name. Then the next one that we need to do is to set up the source. So the source data set is setting it up with the SQL Server. Currently, we don't have anything yet. So how are we going to set it up? You click on the new button and you search for SQL Server. Select it. And you click on continue. So the next one will be to set up the link server. But since it's your first time, you won't have any link server here. So you have to select the link server and select new. So you call it a name. The next one is to set up the integration runtime. But since we don't have you won't have integration runtime set up on your system yet, you click on new, and where you can set up the integration runtime. Since if you don't know much about integration runtime, you can read more on it, but you have to set it up on your local system and read more on integration runtime, so where you can set it up. So I already have one set up on my system, so I will be starting it. For the one I've already installed on my system. So I start the integration runtime service on my system. And once I have everything set up, I put every connection of the integration runtime. And then I select the integration runtime that I want. I provide the server details based on the credentials. And then I test once I have all that set up. And then you can set up the integration runtime. So once you have all that, select the link service, and then you click create. So with that, you'll be able to, you would have created your data source. So which is SQL Server. underscore employee, which I've already created. But like I said, if it's your first time, you click on the new button, you search MSSql server, SQL server, continue. You give it a name. Click new, where you set up um your link server, and once you have all the link servers set up, provide your database details, like I explained earlier. And once you have the link server set up, you select the link server that you want on-prem. So once you have everything ready, you and then you set it up. So since I already have my link server set up, this is that I'll be using. And for the purpose of this tutorial, you can read more on how to set up integration runtime. Okay, so since I've set up my link server, so we are we are doing one table first. So we'll be extracting the employee table first. So the first, I set it up in a way that I can easily identify it. I'll select the table, employee. Select the employee, and then I click OK. So now we've defined our source table. Since we've defined our source, the next thing we need to do is to define our sink. Don't forget, we have the create timeout. You can adjust or readjust it as the case will be. So let's define our sink. So for the sink side, you create a new one. So our sink side is Azure Data Lake. get started with that. Yeah. And then you search for Azure Data Lake. Just when you have it, you select Azure Data Lake and click continue. So the next one is to define the type of file that you want it to be. And since the file type that we want is in CSV, you select it and you click continue. So it will ask you to rename, and you can give it a name, employee, new table datasets. You select the link server, and since it's new, so you click on new. Where you select, you set up your new data destin. So same way, we've created it earlier. Azure datasets will use your subscription, and then account key asks you to select subscription. You select account name, which we created earlier. Link server, you can test connection once you have that. And once you have it, it's successful, then you click on create. So you've successfully created your link server. And the next one you do is the file path, where you specify the directory that you want it to be. Okay. So remember the file path that we created when we started earlier. So we specify the file path in our storage, and then you leave the name because it will inherit the table name, so you don't have to tamper with the name. So how can you link the file path? Then you click on this folder. That's where you want it to sync in. So you select where you want it to sync in. So let's go back and create another one for the purpose of this class. Now storage accounts. Now storage accounts. We'll go back and we can add your container and add new folder. So you can go back and then you search for the folder. And then you click OK. So you don't have to give it a name. So leave the file name. It will create the file name by default. And once all is ready, you click OK. Yeah. So with this now, we've successfully set up our source and sink. And it will inherit the name. So we didn't put the file name. It will migrate it as the same as the table name. So we have clear source and sink define. If you come back here, you have an option where you can preview the data. So you can see the table that we want to extract. And then you can click on debug. So the pipeline is running. Progress. So it will tell you how many rows that you copied and the number of files. So fine, succeeded. So you can go back to your storage account and check. Voila. Congratulations, you've successfully migrated your first table. So you can see, you can click on these three dots to review, where you can see your data. So now, thank you for watching, for coming this far. So kindly help me click the subscribe button and follow for more. So the next thing we'll be doing now is to set up how you can successfully migrate all the tables at once without you outcoding any name. So stay around and see you in the next video. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this video we're going to do the migration of data from SQL Server to the ADLS 2. So let's get started. During the last class, we stopped at migrating a single table. Now we're going to migrate the full table at once. So let's get started. There are two ways we can migrate all the data from SQL Server to the ADLS 2. One is by doing it one by one. You copy this copy file and do it for each table one by one. And the second one is by being dynamic. So the first one is obviously not the best practice and it is not ideal. The second method is by using each activity to copy the file. So which is this activity, we will be using it to extract the data from the source to sync. So for each activity, you can copy each file and automate it. So, but the other first method is actually not ideal because it takes a very long time and you can't be doing it for multiple tables in case when you have more than 2 tables. So our best option that we'll be doing for this tutorial is using the ForEach activity. So let's get started. Now let me illustrate how you can set up and configure our copy data. Will be initially what we've done is we've set it up in for a single query, which is for a single table, which is for the employee table. Now we'll be setting it up in a dynamic way whereby it can extract all the tables at once. So let me explain. For instance, let me try and run an example using a Python script. In this query, in this Python code, we'll try and print a function whereby the job will print whatever you feed into the job. It will copy all the activity in the ADF and move it to the source to sync. So in a print statement. So what we do now is let's create list. Let's call of tables. So let's say we have our employee and department table, and for each of it, we're going to list and we're going to print it out. So list. So you can see that it prints all this at once. It passed all. So it passed all the tables at once. So it is appropriate that dynamically we need to specify how we want the job to run, how we want the ADS2 to run, instead of manually listing the tables. So it's exactly what we're going to do now. So dynamically, we're going to configure our ADS2 to copy the data for all using the ForEach activity, and it will set it up in a dynamic way whereby it will update and copy each file from the table. So let's continue. So we set up our source and we map out our sync configuration. So now we'll be passing the list of table through the copy activity in order to move the data dynamically. So let's specify the list of tables and the function will handle it. So you click on the source, you click on the copy data on the source. So we'll update the source data set to handle it dynamically. You click on this pencil side. So where we have the we outcoded it earlier where we added the employee table dynamically. So we're going to remove this and add it dynamically, right? So you click on this. So you already have our link server, which we are using, so you don't have to touch that. And then you do parameters. Click on new, you click on schema name, you create schema name, and you create table name. Schema underscore name, which is as it is in your database. Schema name, and then you click on add new again, and then you click table underscore name. So now you've defined the two parameters. Now you go back to connection, right? You click on edit. Remember, we've removed the outcoded table name. So now we are adding it dynamically. So the schema name, you click on the schema name and you add dynamic content. You come here and then you select the schema name and you click OK. You do the same for the table name. Add dynamic content, select table name, and you click OK. Once you've done this, you've set it up for it to accept the dynamic contents, and then you can preview your data if you want. So if you want to preview, let's say DBO, our table name is team employee. Click OK. Just wait for a while and it will show the data set, right? All right. So once you're fine with that, you can publish. Okay, so it throws error, and that's because for each activity we are yet to configure it, so don't worry about that. So the next one we'll be doing so don't worry about that. SQL Server employee close. So the next one we'll be doing is we'll configure the we've done the sync, so we'll configure the sync. So that's what we'll do. So you go back. Do the same thing for the sync. You click on open. So now for the sync side, it's just the same way we carried out the first one. whereby we put the file name and all that. So in this scenario, the first thing you do, you select our parameter, which is the first thing we did earlier. Click on Add New. You create the parameter name. So we can call it file name. Sounds appropriate. File name. Once you've done that, you go back to connection, and then you add the file name dynamically, right? Let's put data, you add the file name, you click OK. So once you've done that, the next one, you can also preview if you want to. So how do you preview? Just the same way you can preview the file, same way we previewed earlier, and voila. So with this now, you've added both file dynamically, but don't forget, if you want to preview, you go and copy the name of the file that we downloaded earlier in our previous explanation. So you add the name and then you click OK. So you'll be able to preview the data. So this is the file path online migration. Don't forget, that was where we saved the file earlier. All right. So let's continue. We've done the sync and we've done the sync and we've done the source. So we've configured them dynamically. Okay. Sync source. So the next step is to get a list of all the tables that we'll be extracting dynamically, since we have done the configuration of each one. So how do we do that? So we configure for each activity, but before then, we need to get a list of tables from the database. Don't forget our database that we connected. So query picture works. Then you get a list of all tables, base table, and then execute. So this query now can give us all the list of the tables that we should migrate. So we have all the list of tables and the views and all that for us to migrate. Okay, so we copy. We'll be migrating 31 tables in this extraction process. So that's the list of the table. So we copy the scripts and we'll be pasting it in for each activity. But we need another function, another activity that I'll be using for this, which is the lookup. Lookup. Yeah. So the lookup activity allows you to execute query and get the results as the list of the tables that we just executed now, so that you can feed them into each activity, into for each activity. So that's what the lookup will be doing. It's what we'll be using to execute the query that we just executed now on the database side, right? So the lookup activity, we execute this query for us, and it will be feeding it for each of the activity one by one. We've created the activity to be dynamic, so now we'll be making use of the lookup activity to carry out this. Right, so for this, you can do a mapping to link the two together. Right, just to show the data flow. So now let's set it up. So you go to settings. You know the data set we are using. We are using the employee name. Right, that is the sets. Server tools. Okay. So you click on settings, the lookup. So you have the schema name and the table name. Just for us to know that what we are doing is actually fine. So let's skip this for now, and let's test the copy activity just for us to be sure that it's actually working fine. So let's manually add the schema name. I think the schema name is studio, right? And then I'm going to give the file name the name so that we can save our activity, right? It's copy, no value provided for parameter table. Oh, okay, so parameter table. Okay, so let me add it again. Okay. So we change the employee, the query, we change it to table, none, and the sync part has already been set, which is the human, which is the employee, the schema file. Yeah. So the source is fine. So if the other schema name didn't come out, remember to close the dataset type and bring it back in again. By the time you bring it back in, the schema name and the table name will show. Don't forget we added it as a dynamic content earlier at this point. Yeah. So you need to close and Open again. When you're done, you can click publish. We should go now. Yeah. So, and then you publish it. So with this now, we've been able to save what we've done so far just to avoid any form of error. And then you'll be able to know where you stopped at any point in time. So now that we've saved our copy activity, so let's bring back our for lookup and for each activity. So we can now bring back our copy and for each activity. Run the lookup. So the first one we'll be doing is we'll configure the lookup activity. So you go to settings, you select the data sets that we're using. So you make the within query, it will be to copy all these tables that will be give us a list of tables that will be migrating. So paste it here. There's a list of tables. You can see the query time and yeah, so query time it's fine. Then you go to dynamic. Running video and can add let's use another table. Which table can we use here? Okay, so let's use this. The content is not much. And first row uncheck so that it won't be saying the first row as the table header. So you need to uncheck it and click. It will take a while. Okay, so you can see the tables that it will be extracting, right? So this is just a sample, so it's working. So the for each activity will be going through all this table in sequence, and that's how it's going to migrate our table. So using this table schema that we provided. Okay, so you can map the direction to show the flow, and let's copy this inside our for each activity, right? Then go back. So we have our copy inside now, and this green arrow is showing the sequence at which it's going to copy, right? So for this, you can go in and configure it dynamically. So we'll be iterating it that for each of the activity, this how we should carry out settings. You go to settings, the batch sequence, the count, you set so we're going to configure the item dynamically so that for each of the activity, it will carry out all the activity based on what is in the sequence. So activity list. Okay, so for each activity, you can define the sequence and it's nothing. So it's add dynamic components, and then you pass your reference of active value. So instead of the return value, so table. Contents. The list of tables. And then we click OK. So and then you click OK. So with this now, let's publish. Then okay. There is a way you can actually make it visible. It's actually in JSON formats. You can actually make it visible. So if you want to see how it is being run, the list of tables, the tables that it's getting, the number of tables, then you can actually do that. So for us to see that, to visualize it, let's clone this activity. Clone. Yeah. So you can delete this for now. And for this, in debug, while it's running, you can actually view how it is and view how it's running. You can maximize it to copy the data sets, and also you can view the input and outputs. It's still running. Yep. So you can see the input, you can see the outputs. It's actually in JSON formats, and this is how it's going to pass it into each copy activity. So you can see this of this table schema, and you can see the table names and the database name. So let's go back to our previous pipeline. Yes, icon. So let's go back to copy activity. So let's go back to source. In this aspect, it's still so we need to make a little tweak. Okay, so come back here, the view, that's the schema name. So let's go back to this previous pipeline and see. Copy. So we're going to configure it in a way, the same way it's bringing it out here for the table name and yep. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so we'll save. So yeah. So come back here and then you do the add dynamic contents. It will now be table name. table name, and then you click table name, and then you click OK. And you do the same thing for the schema. It should be dynamic contents. Let's do I think table schema. Don't forget you can easily figure it out from here, which is why we expanded earlier, table schema and table name. Okay. So we go back. Table name, and we configure table schema. So we do the same thing for sync, where we have the employee data. So you click on here, and then the format is in CSV. So it should now be put it in a format that it is understandable. So it should now be a successful table name. Table schema. Okay. Schema dot table name. Table name dot CSV. So with this now, you can accept this type, and then you can also put as text, just in case. So we've defined these two different formats of the file, and once you're fine, you click OK. So it will either be in .csv or .text file, but let's confirm what we have there. Okay, it's in text. Okay, so let's set it up dynamically. Normal formats. Table name. So we've set it up in a dynamic way so it can inherit the table name and then it will specify the file path instead of coding it. Okay, so I think, yeah, so we've configured the sync path. So let's refresh. We can publish, and now that we've published, you can go back and debug. And let's see. So refresh. While it's running, you can go to your storage location, refresh, and let's see. Still running. It's okay. So go to your storage now and refresh. It's dropping now. First one is successful. Let's take a while. Still running. Let's just give it a time. Okay. So you can see the files now. They are now dropping in your storage location. So congratulations, you've successfully migrated all your data into the data lake ADLS 2. So next now is moving our data from ADLS 2 to Snowflake. See you in the next video. Thank you. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.